Hello and welcome to highlights of Stage 7 of the Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift. Yesterday on Stage 6, it was the second stage win of this year's race for Marianne Vos, this time in the Maillot Jaune of race leader. The 10-second bonus means that she leads Silvia Persico and Cassia Nieuwiadoma by 30 seconds, but Longo Borghini, Vollering and Van Vleuten, some of the big pre-race favourites, all in the top 10. Julia Borgstrom took over in the white jersey as the best young rider. She led Julie de Wilde by 14 seconds, but the danger rider had to be Shirin van Anrooy of Trek Segafredo in fourth. The fans have been out in force at this year's Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift. Couple of non-starters today. Marlon Reusser of SD Works after a bad crash yesterday, and also the Italian sprinter Rachele Barbieri. But what a stage the riders had ahead of them. An absolutely savage day in the saddle. 127.1 kilometres from Sellerstadt to Le Markstein. The Petit Ballon early on in the day, followed closely after by the Col du Platzerwasel, through the finish line for the first time and heading out up the Grand Ballon climb to really conclude things. 7.2 kilometres from the top of the Grand Ballon to the finish as a climb. An absolute monster. 13.5 kilometres in length, averaging 6.7%, and you can see there maximum gradients of 8.6, 8.5 right up towards the summit. Very short descent and then that run into the finish. On the first climb of the day, Annemiek van Vleuten went on the attack. The only rider to stay with her was Demi Vollering, who took maximum points in the Queen of the Mountains at the summit. With 66.1 to go, Elisa Longo Borghini was chasing hard. She was sitting at 1:48, but the gap was growing to the front two on the Col du Platzerwasel. A chasing group behind, containing the likes of Cassia Nieuwiadoma and Cecily Uttrup Ludwig. Vollering dug deeper than she ever had before, but a kilometre from the summit of the Col du Platzerwasel, Annemiek van Vleuten went on the attack. It would be a long solo break. Vollering did everything that she could to try and get herself back up to Van Vleuten, but the gap grew as they head towards the Grand Ballon climb. The gap was over 3 minutes and just under 6 to Longo Borghini, who was being reeled in by the Cassia Nieuwiadoma group. Evita Muziek of FDJ Nouvelle Futuroscope had put in a big turn for Cecily Uttrup Ludwig. One of the revelations of the season, Silvia Persico, had gone into the day in second, just started to slip off the back of the group. Longo Borghini was caught by Nieuwiadoma, Labus, Uttrup Ludwig and Urska Zigart. At the head of the race, though, Van Vleuten was time trialling her way to a famous stage victory. Nieuwiadoma's pressure split the group behind. Only Labus and Uttrup Ludwig were able to stay with her. Longo Borghini and Persico would combine behind. Van Vleuten crested the summit and would enjoy her ride in towards the finish. An iconic day through the mountains, perhaps like Marianne Vos, who had held the jersey going into the day, probably one of the only prizes missing in the career of Annemiek van Vleuten. A Tour de France stage victory, and with it, the yellow jersey of race leader. Demi Vollering, a real battle that she put in today, crossed the line in second, and she would sit second in the general classification. Already a stage winner in this year's race, Cecily Uttrup Ludwig in her Danish champions jersey came home from fourth ahead of Labus and Nieuwiadoma. A mountain stage victory that clearly will go down in history. Annemiek van Vleuten takes it ahead of Demi Vollering by 3:26. Uttrup Ludwig at 5:16. Labus, Nieuwiadoma, Persico, Zigart, Muziek and Roy Akers, your top 10. With 1 day to go, Annemiek van Vleuten pulls on the Maillot Jaune of race leader. What a show she put on. She leads Demi Vollering by 3:09, 4:20 to Nieuwiadoma, but that podium still a real battle. Labus, Uttrup Ludwig, all still within striking distance. Persico, Longo Borghini, Muziek, Garcia and Chabet, your top 10. Second on the stage, second in the general classification, and now the leader of the Queen of the Mountains classification, Demi Vollering, leads Annemiek van Vleuten by 1 point. Femke Heretzer drops to fifth. Sharon Van Anrooy came in the blue jersey of the best young rider in the Women's World Tour and swapped it for the white jersey as the best young rider in the Tour de France Femmes Avec Zwift with 1 day to go. Another great stage race for the young Trek Segafredo rider. Stage 8 is another monster of a stage, 123.3 kilometers from Le to La Super Planche de Belleville. Category 2 climb early on the Ballon d'Alsace, but what can we say about La Super Planche? It is an absolute brute, 20% and 24% at the top. Could it be a day for the breakaways? But for Team Movistar and Annemiek van Vleuten, we know that she will want to take the stage win at La Super Planche de Belleville in that yellow jersey. It is going to be an absolutely brutal stage